Hey guys, just sneaking in some Starbucks, loving the new cup. I am just waking up, having my coffee. Let me set that down. And I am getting ready to do my makeup, and I've realized, oh, my skin is horrible right now. It's so broken out. So I thought, why not do a video based on acne coverage? I just honestly got up, threw my hair in a bun, washed my face with micellar water, and moisturized, and now I'm going to get right into my routine for when my acne-prone skin is deciding to act out. There's a few key things that I use when my skin is like this. Because I have oily combination skin, sometimes it's great, I don't have that much acne, and then other times I'll wake up like this, and these are actually like little scabs because I'm the worst and I pick at my skin and I need to stop, but that makes it even harder for coverage. So if you can honestly just leave your skin alone when you're having those breakout moments, you're going to be much better off. But I am like a nervous picker, and so it's the worst. So now I have to deal with that. So I've learned a lot of different tricks to deal with the different textures on my skin when I'm having those breakouts. So the first thing that I'm going to do is prime my skin. I have 1,000 different primers. I love primers. And again, with my skin being different almost on a weekly basis, I have really learned different techniques for different skin types. So in that way, it's been helpful. Thanks, Skin Nut. Today's primer that I'm going to use is the POREfessional by Benefit. This is huge. You'll see everyone using this in videos to deal with pores and acne. It honestly does make a difference. You can concentrate it over your areas that you have the largest pores and over your acne, or you can use it on your entire face. I usually don't use it on my forehead. I don't have a pore problem on my forehead. I just have an oily skin problem. So again, my hands have been washed. I'm going to use, these are the little like sample bottles. I always have so many of these, so I like force myself to use them up before I go into the full size, and it's a great way to try product. So reasonable amount here, like pea-size amount, and I'm just gonna go right over those problem areas and just be rubbing that in. So I've got acne over there. I always get it along my jawline. It's actually pretty common in women ages 20 to 30 to see breakouts along the jawline. A lot of it is hormonal, so you're not alone, sister. And then I always use it like around my nose and over my cheeks if I'm using it, because that is where I have my largest pores. So we're gonna get that all rubbed in. It has this really awesome silky feeling to it. Like, that's the one thing I really love about this primer. It just makes my skin feel so beautiful. And it really does a good job of filling in the pores. So as you can see, nothing miraculous yet, but it's just going to give us that nice base to work with. Other than that, I would like to use a different primer on my forehead again. This time I'm going to use the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer. This is really great for oily skin because it has silicone in it, and I'm just going to rub that into my forehead. So silicone-based primers can be a real win for oily skin. That's why this one has been so popular. It's not my favorite primer, but for what I'm doing today, it's gonna work perfectly. So now that we have our primer rubbed in, and again, pretty, not aggressively, but I do rub it into the skin pretty well. We're gonna let that dry for a second. The next step we're gonna go into is actually color correction. So I haven't touched on this in a video yet. You can go full on color correction. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just focusing on that acne problem. So I have a multitude of different color correctors. One that I love is the Naked Skin by Urban Decay Color Correcting Fluid. This is in the green shade. You always want to use green to cancel out redness on acne spots, but I'm going to tell you my favorite color corrector for acne is this little 6-color concealer and corrector palette by BH Cosmetics. She's definitely got some use. So you can see there, it comes with a few different colors. I really don't use them as the concealer, so those aren't touched. I do use the pinky reds underneath my eye for color correcting, but mostly you can see I've hit pan in the green. It's a very creamy consistency, so I find that its coverage is super helpful when you get into this, like, not scarring, but like almost like scabbing acne. I just use my finger because it warms it up, so I'm literally just kind of go in a circle, get a decent amount on my finger, and then start applying it to my skin. So I'm gonna look in my other mirror here. I'm gonna leave it pretty thick, and you can see that it's leaving marks around this like scabbing I have. That's okay, we're gonna deal with that later. So we're gonna go in really heavy with this, just dotting it on with my finger, and I'm gonna hit any of those areas that have redness and acne. The first time I color corrected, I was really scared because I was like, how thick do I leave this? Like, is this right? You'll learn it, you'll play with it, you'll find what's right based upon the coverage you're gonna have. But I'm gonna do full coverage makeup, so this is gonna be fine to leave it pretty thick. Around the nose is always a great place. Again, hormonal discoloration, a lot of women get redness around the nose. So we're gonna start to pat it in just a little bit thinner. Like, it's gonna stay pretty green, pretty heavy, but I don't want it to be thick to the point where once I put my foundation, you'll see green through it. So you're gonna see a lot of green, but we're gonna kind of just work it back in. Now, if you have redness in your cheeks like I do, it's great to use the color corrector throughout your cheeks to balance out that redness. So, I mean, ultimately, when my skin's at its worst, I will use a lot of color corrector, or I will use the Tiger Grass color correcting treatment from Dr. Jart that I spoke about in a different video. This kind of balances out that all over redness, but today we're focused on acne, so that's why we're doing this versus that today. So once you've got this pretty well blended in, we're actually going to move on to the foundation. So you can see automatically it's canceling out the redness, but it's not dealing with those scabby areas. Oh, one on my nose too. Yeah, my skin is horrible right now. I'm going to use a beauty blender. I don't really use brushes for foundation. A lot of people love them, but I'm still tried and true to my beauty blender. I kind of want to try a different foundation today, but I'm a little scared. So, okay, I'm going to do it. But if the coverage isn't great, I apologize. That will mess up the whole video. But anyway, let's give it a go. So I bought this Rimmel Lasting Finish 25-hour comfort serum foundation. I bought it in the color 100 Ivory, and they say it's a skin perfecting full coverage foundation. I don't use drugstore foundation typically, so I'm trying to get into them just for cost saving purposes, and honestly I feel like they've advanced so much from years ago, and they're really keeping in line with the higher end brands. So I'm gonna give this a whirl today. It's reviewed pretty well. I'm gonna shake it up. I feel like you should always shake them just to make sure your ingredients are mixed. And then let's see, this is literally first time using this, so oh my god, what if I can't open it? Okay, why can't I open this? Okay, there, it was just screwed on really tight. So things about drugstore brands that I don't love is typically they don't have a pump, which I don't know, I just feel like can get really messy. I preference a pump applicator bottle. So I'm just gonna kind of dab this out onto the back of my hand. I mean, it looks pretty creamy and thick, so I'm feeling good about it. I don't like if a foundation is like really thin when I'm taking it out of the bottle. I get kind of nervous about that. So I've got a decent amount on here. I'm going to scoop it up onto my beauty blender and just start dotting it around my face. Okay, so we're going in. The smell, it smells really clean. It's weird. Okay, that's weird. Let me smell. Yeah, it has like this very fresh, soapy smelling cleanliness to it. It's kind of weird. I'm actually loving the coverage right now. I would say like the coverage is comparable to my Too Faced Born This Way, which is a very heavy coverage, a full coverage foundation. Yeah, like I'm kind of loving this so far. Yay! So hopefully this will work. So I'm just gonna keep dabbing around. I think I probably need a little bit more, so that's not too crazy. Sometimes I'll just go like right onto my beauty blender. Nope, doesn't want to come out. So onto the back of the hand. So again, like a pump applicator would be preference for me, but it's not the end of the world. I'm just gonna keep bouncing and applying that to make sure I get the coverage. Don't forget, we've got to go down, blending into our neck, and I had some acne on my lower or upper neck that I wanted to cover as well. The coverage is really pretty on this. Wow, Yeeks, I'm kind of amazed by this. I don't know how much it was, but certainly not the $45 I'm used to spending on foundation. It's probably like, what, 10 bucks? I don't know. The coverage is great. It smells great. The color is perfect. Like, it is like a perfect match. And I normally preach about not being able to use foundation straight out of the bottle because normally it won't match me well enough. But this is kind of killer. Oh, I'm so glad I did this as a first review so you guys can see. Okay, look at it. Like, that's pretty dang beautiful. I mean, we still have this. We're going to go back to that. But overall, like, the coverage is really nice. It's leaving my skin slightly textured, but not bad. Like, once we set it with a powder, it'll probably be good. You can still see my discoloration up here a little bit, so it's probably not as thick as the Too Faced Born This Way, but again, it's providing like really, really great coverage, especially for all that redness. Like, it canceled out that redness really well in my face. And what we're looking for in this video is to make sure that it's covering our color corrector, which I think you can see it's covered it perfectly. Like, literally, you cannot see it at all. So that's that step. I'm sorry, I got really rambly because I was like really excited to try this new foundation. So I think we're all set with that. Next, we're going to go into our concealer. So there's a few different ways to do concealer. You know, I usually like preach the good word of using one that matches your skin tone. However, once we get into acne, it is a really good idea to use one that's a little bit lighter than your skin tone. So for our under eye, because I have to do that to do everything else, we're going to make like a little triangle so that that light reflects up. You can also swoop further out. So there's that. And then for our acne coverage, same thing, we're just gonna kind of dot over it. So when I'm covering spots that aren't like acne scars and scabs at this point, I will use one that is the same color as my skin tone, but I need the light to reflect off of these because they're not, it's like a texture issue at this point. So, that looks good. So we're just going to do that. This dark spot is actually a scar I have now. It was from a really deep acne spot that I had, and it's like 6 months ago, and that spot has not gone away. So I'm kind of bummed about that. It's something I will deal with forever. You know, I picked at it though, so that's my problem too. Bad girl. Anyway, get moving with this. So when I'm doing my concealer for my eye, I literally just close my eye and dab it everywhere. I like to use this as like a foundation or a eyeshadow primer basically. So I go over my whole eye. It gets rid of any discoloration that I have on my eyelid, and it's really going to give that illuminated effect. And then into my nose to cover that problem area. And you can already see the difference. Look at the darkness and the redness around my eye compared to the after. You want to make sure you do kind of dab that out well enough though, because you will get creasing in your eyelid, which is kind of a problem I have a lot. I forget to like dab it out enough. So you can always go back, but just get it done enough the first time and you'll be good to go. I'm gonna do the same thing on my other side. Okay, this video is so long, I'm sorry. I always think I'm gonna make like really short videos and then I'm like 17 minutes later. Yeah, this is casual. But you know, acne coverage is important. That's something that we deal with all the time. And this much coverage isn't important for every single day, but when you have an event, a date, a dance, a job interview, like that's a time that that's gonna be important to you to make sure you get that full coverage. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. You know, if you do this much every day, props to you. I'm like a little too lazy for that, so you'll see me like rolling around with a fraction of this much makeup on regularly. All right, then we're gonna just dab in those spots from before. Okay, so that has really canceled out all of our redness. So some things that are gonna happen is that like you're not going to be able to get rid of a texture issue completely. So like you're still going to see that there might be like little mounds in the skin there. But what we're trying to get rid of is the noticeable effect. So this is still noticeable, so we've got to do a couple more steps, but look at the difference between that and before. I'm always consistently getting forehead wrinkles because I make horrible like motions in my forehead. I gotta stop. Okay. So that is our foundation and our concealer, and now we're going to go in with a little bit more coverage for our acne, and then we've got to set everything as well. Actually, I'm probably going to set first because otherwise my makeup will start creasing. Oh, I'm searching for a powder that's right here. So I've been using the RCMA powder, the No Color Translucent Setting Powder. I just got this like a week ago, and I've been using it nonstop. I'm obsessed with it. So I'm gonna tap some out into the jar. the lid. I just unscrew it and poured some in. And then I'm going to use this little brush I always use for powder under my eye, which is the Morphe M335. It's like a small buffing brush. And then I'm just going to kind of heavily lay that under my eye. You can use a lot of powder here. And this powder I think is like $12, so it's incredibly reasonable. And then into my forehead, because that's where I'm gonna get all those wrinkles if I don't hurry up and set that. Okay, so we'll leave that for a second. And now I'm gonna go back in, I know this looks crazy. And then I'm gonna go back into dealing with these. So at this point, what I like to do is put a little bit more cream coverage over that acne when it's very, very textured. So I have this Nudestix concealer pencil crayon corrector. It's in light 2. I really like this for cleaning up eye makeup or eyebrow shaping, but lately I was like, ooh, maybe this will work over acne as well. So I'm going to put a little bit, like rub it onto my finger like that, and then just kind of dab this on over. So I'm just kind of bouncing my finger up and down over that acne. Sorry, I'm trying to do it in so you can see it, but I need to look at it as well. And then I'm just going to keep dabbing that in. So at this point, you're going to see there's discoloration around where I've dabbed that in. So I'm going to pick up my Beauty Blender, and on the tip, just blend out those edges. All right, so that's looking a lot better. Now what I'm going to do is set that with powder as well. So same brush, same powder, and I'm just going to dab over all of that. I'm going to do my smile lines here as well. Yeah, anywhere that I get creasing. Okay, so now that I have that done, what this is doing, this is a baking technique. I hate getting so far ahead in my videos, but this is a baking technique when you put powder over a liquid and it basically blocks all the pores from having air. So it heats up and sets that concealer, and that's why they call it baking. It's probably not great for your pores, but for setting your under eye and for acne coverage, I really like baking for that reason. It's just gonna kind of like liquefy it and then set it. So I'm gonna let that sit in for a second while I buff out my other powder. Now this, if you've watched my other videos, what I like to do over the first setting powder is use the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. So I'm gonna tap a little bit of that into the cap and pick up that powder and just go all over. And that's gonna blend out that first powder. Yeah, I use like 1,000 pounds of this. 1,000 pounds. And then that eye, just same thing, kind of buffing that back out around our nose. And then I usually would let this sit a little longer, but for the purposes of this video, I don't edit these videos, so I mean, eventually I'll probably get like a real camera and editing equipment, but I've made like 6 videos, so I'm just having fun. And so since I can't edit, I'm just gonna have to buff it out now. So I'm just gonna go over that with my Laura Mercier powder, doing the rest of my face. All right. So the one thing I'm noticing is that Rimmel foundation, the powder is sticking to it a little more, like, how do I say this? It's more creasy than my Too Faced. So I've used the same powders that I use when I use my Too Faced and my Urban Decay foundation routine, but I'm noticing that like I'm getting more creasing. Like you can see there and see in my under eye. And then I don't know if it's just because it's that Rimmel foundation, but there's still, like, you can see that acne more than I feel like I normally would. So that's my routine for acne and discoloration, which, I mean, look at it from here, like what a difference from before. And now I would go in and I would contour and highlight and all of that. But this is just like my base face for when I'm having acne issues. I don't know, maybe it's because of that Rimmel foundation, but I'm feeling I'm not getting as good of coverage as I normally would. But I would still really recommend this foundation for if you don't have major acne issues. So like it covered anywhere that I just had like flat acne issues, but these raised like scabby bad areas, this hormonal acne, I would say this is probably not as good as the Too Faced. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope that there's some tips that help you here, and I hope that you enjoyed my first impressions of this foundation. That's it. Have a nice day, guys. Bye.